Greetings. I'm Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. This is episode 2690. And today we are looking, and this is Friday, and we are looking at an article, really, I'm writing Trump Triumphant. Now, we're talking about the trip to China here. And there's going to be a lot of people going to say, oh, it's a failure, it's this and that. But I think it was triumphant in a very meaningful way. There are four things that came out of the his talks with China, and I want to cover them. In brief, they are this: China's Chai, or I think that's how you pronounce it, Chai, and Trump agreed to build a constructive China-U.S. relationship of strategic stability. Number two, China's door to opening up will only open wider, Chai said. Number three, China expressed interest in purchasing more U.S. oil to wean off its reliance on Middle Eastern crude. Number four, China reserved his sharpest language for Taiwan, calling it the most important issue in the bilateral relationship. So within that context, I call this Trump triumphant. So let me explain. When evaluating presidential trips around the world, and especially to potential adversaries, you must measure it against previous presidents. Now, I'm 83 years old, been around a while, and have watched presidents of both parties and have noticed that they rarely achieve great breakthroughs for us. In some cases, it has felt like the president gave away the farm, but not in this case. So let's take a closer look here. Number one, it says, was this China's Chai, and Trump agreed to build a constructive China-U.S. relationship of strategic stability. To me, as I look at that, that generally means that they want to continue things as they are and maybe improve, especially trade relations. That's always a good sign. Number two, China's door to opening up will only open wider, Chai said. Now, this is probably more about trade relations, maybe even opening it up to visitations by as a tourist attraction, uh, rather than it is about human rights. China is a human rights violator, and I haven't seen much evidence that they're changing their ways there. So I wouldn't put my hopes on that part. But it is good that they want to improve relationships, trade relationships. Peaceful trade instead of war is welcome news. Number three, China expressed interest in purchasing more U.S. oil to wean off its reliance on Middle Eastern crude. Folks, this is an outright victory for President Trump. It is political acknowledgement that the United States has won the war in Iran. Now, let me just expand on that a little bit. When you talk politics, say, and diplomacy, they rarely say exactly what they mean. You have to read between the lines and try to understand what they're saying. And so you're not going to ever hear China, willingly anyhow, say, well, the United States won the war, or the United States is winning the war, however you want to put it. But what they have done is acknowledge the effectiveness of the blockade. So China has in the past been importing about half of its energy needs from Iran in the form of oil. Now this is critical because China's already reeling because we went into Nicaragua and arrested the president and everything there. We shut up. China was getting well, I think it was a quarter to a third of their energy needs from there. Now that's gone. That's been shut off. Now it's been shut off from Iran. It's a worldwide blockade. of Iranian oil. There's three different places, and I won't get into that today, but there's three different places uh, where our ships are watching for anything that has, I guess they fly under different flags. So if they see a ship flying under Iranian flag, they're going to stop it. And somehow they know what if a ship doesn't have the Iranian flag, they still might stop it and examine it. And they've already done this. This is in international waters. But they're also in waters in which the United States can effectively blockade. And so the blockade of Iranian oil around the world is not only causing Iran power problems, but in their case, they can't ship it out. If they can't ship it out, they can't make the money, and they need the money. Um, China is one of their, if not the number one customer, is certainly one of them. And with they now are going to back off, and that's a victory for us. But on top of all that, not only are they backing off on buying Iranian oil, they are shifting to American oil. Now, if you remember, in the first term of President Trump, he made America a number one exporter of oil. Then came Biden, who couldn't stand prosperity, so he got rid of that. And we sank in to become once again a energy efficient energy importer. And now we're getting back to where we're exporting oil as well as other products. And the thing is that this is shifting, um, you could say it's a global shift in political power. You have energy power, and that makes the political power, whoever controls the oil has fantastic power. This is what Iran has been operating on. They have been able to control the oil. But when we start shifting and shutting down their avenues for selling and bringing in, they might find land routes that they can still get some through, but it's going to be highly diminished uh, and slower than by ship. And so this is huge, folks. I can't even put a lid on it. It's going to pay dividends to America for a long time. Now, the last point here is President Chai reserved his sharpest language for Taiwan, calling it the most important issue in the bilateral relationship. Now, folks, for him, that might be true, but not for the world. That's the United States. It has been the partner and trade partner, protector for decades. Doesn't matter if the president's been a Republican or Democrat. I say that we've had a emphatically supported Taiwan for decades. Now, you might question that a little bit because there have been some presidents who have been somewhat weak on that, but they still didn't give it away. And so that's why I'm sticking with that statement. The even the presidency before Trump, yeah, in the first term, President Obama, he did not give away the nation there of Taiwan. He was not strong on their support, as I recall it, but he at the same time, Taiwan to this very day is still a self-governing island, prosperous island. Has its own military system for protecting itself. But of course, China is huge, comparatively speaking. So I don't know how well Taiwan could stand against China. They're sitting ducks in a way. China can attack them, and Taiwan could retaliate, but I don't know how well they could. But with the United States in their waters, the United States in their partnership, uh, then that raises the stakes up, makes it a little bit more dangerous for China to try to go in and seize Taiwan. And their argument that Taiwan is part of China is kind of weak, I think. There's some truth to what they say, but um, it's not the first province or part of a territory, part of a greater country that broke away. And we have countries around the world. The United States was once a part of the United Kingdom. That doesn't give the United Kingdom rights to come back and take it over. So that's a dubious argument. But sometimes these presidents that we've had in the past have looked weak and sometimes strong. But China knows it cannot get into a naval war with the United States and expect to win. They have made great gains in building their own navy, but they're kind of restricted. And while they have made great gains, we have too. And our ships, it's just amazing what our ships can do. But China was, I don't think China seriously thinks they could win a war with us right now. They're still looking to the future on that. China was expected, by the way, to make this a huge part of the negotiation. That didn't come as a surprise. But instead, simply gave the same warning, albeit in nicer language, as in the past. In other words, we claim Taiwan, and you must leave and let us have our way. And we didn't. Did you hear a sigh of relief during the presentation that I just gave? Well, it might have been me. You see, I remember presidential trips. I remember one presidential trip, in fact, which was called the Great Apologetic Trip or something along that line. And you know what president I'm talking about, where the president went worldwide and apologized for America, basically for being a great nation. I remember presidential trips that seemed weak and almost giving away the farm. But our president, President Trump, isn't of the same mold. He went, he praised, he negotiated in strength and came away triumphant. The acknowledgement that the United States had won the war while not stating it in those words was nonetheless an emphatic victory. I interpret this as not only an admission of our success, but in fact a lessening of support for Iran. If that is true, then Iran's chief supporter has joined Russia in giving only vocal support, not real substantial aid. Russia gives vocal support to Iran, and I think they've provided them with a few arms. But that's about it. Because Russia is involved in a war that was supposed to be over in 3 days. They are now 4 years in and working on a fifth year. And they haven't made much progress since that first year. But they have lost thousands, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. So why did I call this? Well, actually, what I call this is a triumphant tour de force. I call it Trump Triumphant. And I think I have a strong case for calling it that. Now, you're not going to hear the press call it that. You're not going to hear Democrats, local and national, call it that. They're going to point out what they see as weaknesses, which only shows up their own ignorance or their own lack of homework. But the thing is this, and I could be wrong. I'm not an absolute going to tell you that this is an absolute triumph. It is, in my opinion, a triumph. And I've given you the reasons why I think that. And I could have spent more time on the subject. But you're entitled to disagree. And you may very well disagree. I would be interested in hearing why you disagree and what you think, how you think this went down. But in my opinion, Trump got out of this an admission that he may have wanted Well, in fact, I'm sure he wanted it, but he didn't go in there knowing that he was going to get it. Now, he may have had some tips or whatever, some advice. They indicated to him that he had a good chance of winning that particular argument. But to come away with China shifting from its reliance on Iran, and don't get me wrong on this, folks, when it says Midwest, it's talking about Iran. And it's 50%, maybe higher, dependence on Iran's oil. It's being forced to do this. And so it's going to shift and looks like it's going to shift and going to start purchasing oil from the United States. By the way, other countries are already doing this. And so I expect the United States, I'm still expecting the oils to come down, folks. I see, in watching the oil prices, of course, I do it locally here, but I have watched it during the 4 years of Biden. And even before that, the 4 years of Trump before that, it was up and down. It always is. But it was trending down under Trump, was trending up under Biden, and is trending down now, even though we're at a high point right now. That's due to the war. Well, the war has now been declared done. And now China's kind of agreed with that. And so I think you're going to start seeing this. How fast? I don't know. But I think you're going to start seeing the pressure pushing it down again. And that's because we are becoming a energy exporter. And that will bear fruit here. We'll see our gas prices go down. We'll see our grocery bills go down and things of this nature. Again, I don't know the speed. I have no way of knowing that. So whether it takes place between now and the midterms or it's after the midterms, I can't say. I think that there's a possibility it could or at least be in progress of going down. People will see it going down before the midterms. There's so much that this president has done. He needs help, though, folks. He needs help in the Congress. He needs more Republicans in Congress, both the House and the Senate, because the Democrats don't like, if it has Trump's name attached to it, Democrats don't care if it's good or bad. If it's got his name attached to it, they don't want it, which is I think it's amusing because before he ever ran for office, he was their darling. They wanted him to finance their elections. I just think it's amusing. Well, I hope you have a great day. I hope I've done one of three things: informed you, encouraged you, inspired you, and maybe all three. But I also want to leave this with you as I bring this to a close, that T&R Independent Books, a Christian indie publisher, is the sponsor of this podcast. It is also a Christian indie publisher interested in, if you don't know how to write, we'll teach you how to write. We have a course called Basic Authors Training. You can get in there, apply, and once you apply for it, you'll be eligible for any coupons that are available for that ministry or service, rather. Same thing with ministry publishing. You apply for it, learn more about it, and apply for it. And when you apply for it, again, you become eligible for some lucrative coupon. Might be one, might be more. And this is not available to anybody else as far as the store, the rest of the store. So I would encourage you to check it out. So that said, I hope to see you in the next episode.